Almost 6 years ago, Nightmare Zone was released into the game, and since then, it has been the topic of conversation for being one of the best ways to solely train combat stats. It feels that people in the last year have made some progression in discovering even better ways to train in Nightmare Zone to achieve even higher rates than were expected, as well as discovering ways to train combat stats that would allow you to AFK for upwards of 20 minutes and achieve reasonable XP rates at the same time. In this guide, we will be discussing what Nightmare Zone is, how it works, what the rewards are from here, different methods of training melee here, as well as how to obtain fast points if you're after imbues. So stick around because we're going to break all this down and help teach you guys what you need to know about melee Nightmare Zone. Timestamps in the description. Shameless plug alert, follow me on Twitter in the description. I post a lot of video updates on there as well as a ton of pictures of cats. If you enjoy pictures of cats, then follow me on Twitter and I'll do my best to not disappoint. Also, you can join my CC, it's just my name, if you're looking for a group of people to just talk, flame, PVM, skill, whatever. We're doing weekly events now for skilling, so if you're interested in that, come join. So let's start off with what Nightmare Zone is. Nightmare Zone is a combat-based minigame that is located north of Yanil. It involves you fighting bosses you have fought from previous quests you've already completed, sometimes one by one, and sometimes a bunch of them thrown together all at once at you. It is noted that if you die here, it is a safe death and you will not lose your items. So hardcore items out there, you can rest easy that you will not lose your red helmet here. And how do we get to Nightmare Zone? The easiest way to get there is through the use of the minigame teleport directly there, but this is also on a 20-minute cooldown, and there are other options for getting here, such as like using the Watchtower teleport and walking east, using a Yanil house teleport tab, which is just using a scroll of redirection on a house tab and requires 50 construction, teleporting to your house if it's in Yanil, using the fairy ring code CLS and walking northwest, or CIQ and walking through Yanil, Ring of Dueling to Castle Wars and run east, Spirit Tree to Tree-Gnome Village and walk southeast. I do want to put in aside though, you cannot use the minigame teleport here until you've unlocked the ability to actually participate in the minigame, but as you can see, there is a wealth of different ways to get to Nightmare Zone. So the requirements for participating in this minigame are very simple. You need to only have 5 of any of these quests done. Okay. Big list of quests, I get that. But generally, if you're looking for 5 quests I've done quickly, say on an alt account or something that you just want to train up combat sets quickly on, you want to be looking at the following quests: Lost City, Mountain Daughter, Tree-Gnome Village, Vampire Slayer, and the Fight Arena. If you can complete the Depths of Despair, that is preferred over one of these other quests just because of the secret sand crab training spot that unlocks, and the sand snake boss is great for experience because it has low defenses and high HP. But that sand crab training spot's kind of for like a melee skill guide and not the Nightmare Zone guide, so I'm not going to get into it. Just know that the quest has a great benefit outside of just Nightmare Zone, and once you have 5 of those quests done, you will be able to minigame teleport here every 20 minutes as well as participate in the game. Another recommendation that I will make, there's no combat requirement level to participate in Nightmare Zone, but it's generally preferred that you have either 65 base stats or you have 70 base stats, and by base stats I mean your combat stats, whatever you're training. Generally you want like at least level 65s, but most people would rather that you have base 70s. So don't really come here until you have base 70s if you want to get the best results, in my opinion. So how does this game work? Well, the minigame requires there to be coins put into the coffer. They can be deposited in increments of 1000 GP up to a maximum of max cash, which is 2,147,483,000 coins. The amount of coins you will need per game will depend based on the mode you choose. Practice mode is free. Endurance mode requires either 1,000 or 5,000 coins for normal or hard mode respectively. Rumble requires 2,000 or 6,000 for normal or hard mode. And a customizable Rumble requires either 22,000 or 26,000 for normal and hard. But if you have the maximum number of quest points when going to Nightmare Zone, the price of a customizable Rumble will be reduced by 10k, making it 12 and 16k respectively. The difference between normal and hard is simple. Normal is the boss in its original state that you fought them in the quest at. And hard mode is doubling their HP, attack, strength, magic, and range levels. The defensive stats of the boss remain unchanged though. Also, the points received from the boss is vastly different from normal to hard. So if you want points, it is generally considered better to use hard mode in almost every instance. So these different modes that we mentioned before. Practice mode is where you can select the boss you've previously defeated to fight 1v1 until one of you dies. No points or XP is given, but drops such as like Dragon Bones from Elvarg will be still awarded. Endurance mode is fighting every boss you have unlocked 1v1 in waves until either you die or all the bosses you have available die. Points and XP are awarded as normal. The Rumble mode, which is the mode generally used by most people. You will fight multiple randomly generated bosses at once, and when one dies, another will spawn to take its place. This will continue until either you die or leave the dream through the use of the vial in the room. You will receive experience and points as normal for every boss defeated in this mode. To start a dream, you need to have money in the coffer and then speak to Dominic to start. He stands right outside the entrance to it. You will then decide which dream to start. We'll use Rumble still for the example. You have a couple options with Rumble to do a regular Rumble or a customizable Rumble. Customizable costs 20k more, but allows you to have, basically allows you to customize the bosses that you have so you don't have some of the awful bosses in there, making it easier to get experience during your run. But it should be noted that the less bosses you have unlocked, the less points you will receive per kill. Something else to note about Rumble mode is that the inclusion of power-ups exist. There are 4 of these, and they are Recurrent Damage, the Zapper, Power Surge, and Ultimate Force. Recurrent damage is red and will deal extra damage when you hit. It does not give extra XP, however. The damage is based on your initial damage and then will do 3/4 of that damage to the monster. So for example, if you hit a 12, the power-up will deal an additional 9 to them. The power-up will last for 45 seconds. The Zapper is purple and will damage nearby monsters. It won't damage monsters that are immune to normal attacks like the Dagonoth Mother or Tanglefoot, however. The power-up lasts a minute and is generally maxing around 8 damage. Power Surge is yellow and fills up your special attack bar first. It then regenerates it 20% every game tick and lasts for 45 seconds. Finally, Ultimate Force is white and will instantly kill all bosses that are currently alive. Note, you will not get points for killing the monsters or the experience for killing them. You will find that Power Surge is one of the best for experience and points, and Ultimate Force has a very niche use, which we will discuss later in the actual strategy portion, which, speaking of, let's talk about the strategy. So there's 2 options when you start looking at Nightmare Zone. And that's, do you want to be getting experience or do you want to be getting points? Not saying you can't get both at the same time, but it is not at the level it could be if you purely focus on one or the other. Let's start with the point route, since usually if people want these, they want to be in and out as quick as possible. It's a struggle to find a good point list for Nightmare Zone, but I did some digging around the internet. It's important to note here that the more bosses you have removed from your floors, the less points the bosses will actually give you upon killing them. So you want to keep as many of them as possible around. Also, if you have Desert Treasure or Lunar Diplomacy done, you must include these in your floors or else you'll see a massive drop in points given per kill. It's also recommended that you do not do a prayer method when doing these kind of floors because you're going to be having a large variety of different combat styles you're dealing with. But I did find a post that mentioned the following list of bosses to kill, and fair enough, I was not disappointed with the results. So first up, let's talk about how the floor is going to be set up. You're going to make a customizable hard rumble for 26 or 16k if you have the quest point cape, and then the list of bosses you want are everything except the following: Corrupt Lizardmen, Witcher's Experiment, Elvarg, Nazastrul, Dagonoth Mother, Tanglefoot, Glod, Chronozone, and Barrel Chest. You can also exclude the Giant Rock, but it's not necessary. Once you have that figured out, the gear you will want to be using is DH if you are 85 HP or higher. And for your other accessories, you will want to use a Torture, a Zerker Ring, Ferocious Gloves, Primordials, and then an Infernal Cape. Obviously, you can downgrade all of this to whatever you have. Obviously, I don't have an Infernal Cape. I have a Fire Cape. If you don't have Ferocious Gloves, you can do Barrel Gloves or a Regen Bracelet or Combat Bracelet or whatever you have. It's all interchangeable, but the key component here is that you have the Darox if you are 85 HP or higher. If you do not have this gear, the DH, then wear a full Obsidian set with an Obby Sword and Zerker Neck. You can use the same accessories mentioned above, but you want to make sure you have the full Obsidian set, so the helmet, chest, and legs with an Obsidian Sword and a Berserker necklace. Everything else is up to your discretion. Your inventory will consist of a spec weapon, melee gear switch, something to increase your melee accuracy because DH does not, ice gloves, a locator orb or a rock cake to get your health down to 1, a bone crusher if you want it, 7 overloads, and the rest absorbs. Go into the dream and rock cake down to 51 and drink your overload, or drink your overload and locator orb down to 1. Then begin smashing all the bosses. Some important notes about this is that bosses like the Gelatinith Mother and Damus should be avoided at all costs and do not kill them. Use Ultimate Force to kill these off if you have more than one of them in your floor. If you have either Camille or Caramel in your floor, use Protect from Magic and it will teleport them right to you. Prioritize range or magic based bosses and then line up the bosses one by one to minimize the damage. You can flick rapid heal every 59 seconds to make sure that you do not go above 1 HP. If you do happen to miss this, simply right click on your rock cake and guzzle, or spam click on your locator orb to get back down to 1. You will want to use every power up when doing the point method unless it is an ultimate force. Those should be only used when you have 2 or more Damus or Gelatinith Mother in your floor to wipe it and start new. When a power surge ability pops up, switch to your melee gear and put on Piety and spam the spec bar of whatever weapon you have. Preferably D-Claws, but a G-Maul works just as well, and it doesn't cost nearly as much. I did this method, and as you can see, at the end of a 30-minute run, I had over 600,000 points. And I had pretty terrible power-ups this run. I had like 2 power surges, and I had like a ton of ultimate forces, which is like not the mix that you want to be going for at all, but I was still able to pull off a pretty respectable amount of points. Keep in mind though that I do have the quest point cape, so I have access to literally every boss, which means that my points can be higher, and I'm also like max melee, so I will be doing more damage. But this is still by far one of the fastest point floors I have ever done. A side note I want to throw here is that it is possible to get much higher than this, and it's actually more efficient to do a different method than this, which is where you bring in 3 overloads, 6 absorbs, the rest of the inventory the same, and then you just fill up whatever's left after you filled up like your spec weapon and your ice gloves and all of that. Then you just fill up the rest with like super restores or a prayer potion or whatever, and you just camp Piety the whole time. It is faster than not doing it for obvious reasons, but if you really want to get points, that is the fastest way to get points, by just camping Piety and just go to town. You take like 12 or 11 super restores or prayer potions in there, you stay in there for an hour, you probably come out with close to 1.5 million points or something. Okay, so points aside, let's delve into gaining experience. And like before, it comes down to a question. Are you wanting to AFK, or do you want to be paying attention to the screen? Something further to ask would be, do you want 5 minutes of AFK, or do you want to be paying attention every minute or so? If you want some hard AFK, I'm talking like 10 to 20 minutes of AFK, then what you will want to do is use a full obsidian setup with a Zerker necklace, fire cape, primordials, ferocious gloves, Zerker ring, obby sword, and dragon defender. Downgrade wherever necessary, but the important things here are the obsidian armor, necklace, and sword. These are important because when worn together, they will give you a plus 10% boost to obsidian weaponry, melee accuracy, and strength, and the Zerker necklace increases the damage of any obsidian weaponry by 20%. These 2 effects stack, making the best DPS setup in the game, aside from DH and full bandos with a rapier, but we don't want to pay attention or have 200 mil to play with. If you cannot afford obsidian armor, then just use your best melee setup, but there is a considerable increase when using obsidian armor, I just want to point out. Your inventory will look something like this, consisting of 7 super combats and the rest absorption potions. You will then set up a customizable normal rumble for 22k or 12k if you have the quest point cape. Then select the following bosses: Count Draenor, me, the Kendall, the Khazard Warlord, King World, Tree Spirit, and the Sand Snake. Then enter the dream and either stand off to the corner to prevent taking damage from all 4 sides, or run into the middle to make sure you are constantly being attacked and can always auto-retaliate. Drink up your absorption potions to 1,000 points and sip a super combat when the monsters spawn, and just walk away from the computer. This is ideal if you ever want to walk away from the computer for 10 to 20 minutes or just want to train on your phone so you don't have to look back as often as if you were DHing. All you really need to do is watch your stats, repot when necessary, and drink your absorbs to make sure you don't die. You can sub out the super combats with overloads if you want, but that requires you to look back every 5 minutes. If you want the setup that I ran 13 overloads and 15 absorption potions, basically max melee, to help give you an idea of what the setup was. The reason that you're doing normal rumble here instead of a hard is because you will not one-shot the monsters in here. Okay, you might one-shot Count Draenor and hit at 35. Definitely possible. But most of the time you're not going to be one-shotting things, so you will always have 4 monsters on you. And like we said before, defensive stats don't change, only offensive stats change. So if you go into a hard rumble instead of a normal rumble, you are going to get absolutely shredded by the bosses if you don't rock cake down to 1. So instead, you do a normal customizable rumble where they're not going to hit you as hard. You're using lower level bosses, and you will not be one-hitting them. You will always have 4 monsters on you. You will constantly be attacking. You will not have to worry that much about your defenses. No? You don't want to AFK? Okay. Here's a way to get 180k an hour in Nightmare Zone.
When there's no hope hiding, no chance concealing what deep down I felt for you. Oh, I regret for losing the one who loved me, for who I can't go back to. Walking through all the dust and reason frame a past we simply let fade. But I don't close the door, waiting a chance for when we'll be back again.
Oh, yeah, that looks a little too much effort for most people, including myself. Okay, let's break it down and slow it down a bit. So if you want to DH Nightmare Zone, first of all, you need to have at least 85 HP, assuming you have the combat stats to wear DH in the first place. This is because of the set effect that DH has, where you get extra damage based on missing HP. In order to maximize experience, you will need to be staying at 1 HP as much as possible by either flicking rapid heal prayer to reset the regeneration timer, or by right clicking and guzzling on your rock cake or your locator orb to get you down to 1 HP. Then make sure you have plenty of absorbs drink and make sure you remain overloaded. Here's the setup I was using: full DH, torture, fire cape, ferocious gloves, prims, and a Zerker ring. Downgrade wherever necessary. Your inventory will look something like this: 7 to 8 overloads, a bone crusher if you want it, a G-maul or D-claws for specking, your rock cake or locator orb, and the rest absorbs. You will want to set up a hard customizable rumble, and the reason for hard here is that it doesn't change the defensive stats, it just gives the monsters more attack stats and HP, allowing us to hit higher with DH, and since we're staying at 1, we will not be taking any more damage than 1 per hit. Select these bosses: the Moss Giant, Sand Snake, Ice Troll King, Count Draenor, and Arg. You can swap the Sand Snake with Dad if you want, but this requires you to pay more attention due to Dad's knockback move. Then go into the Dream, overload, get down to 1 HP, and go to town. The only power up you're worried about here is Power Surge, and when that pops up, put on Piety and your spec weapon and go to town. Switch back once the Power Surge is ended. As you can see, I did this for about 20 minutes and was close to 120k an hour. It's not too click intensive, you have to pay attention every minute or so it's definitely some good rates. Finally, what do you spend your points on that you get from this? The video is long enough, so I won't take too much of your time here, but do your imbues. They are definitely worth it, especially with the point floor that I discussed earlier. You should have no shortage of ever having enough points to do these. Buy your overloads and absorptions, and then any excess points you have, spend on herb boxes, as they are about a 1 point to 1 GP ratio. You can also buy scrolls of redirection if you need to, for house teleport tabs, for teleport tabs to like Trollheim or Yanil or Relica or whatever you need. And that'll do it for this guide on Melee Nightmare Zone and how to get points in Nightmare Zone. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, remember to like the video, subscribe for more content, and check out all my socials in the description of the video, including my Discord. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, night, whatever time of day it is, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.